Welcome everyone. Good afternoon to Climate Trivia. My name is Sarah Markowitz. I am the lead of the community engagement team for the Carlisle Borough's Climate Action Commission. We are one of 4 teams working to develop a climate action plan for the Carlisle Borough. Today I'm joined with Professor Hans Pfister, and Professor Pfister will be walking us through a game show or a game of trivia, Jeopardy style, so Climate Jeopardy trivia. So of course the climate and the environment is in crisis, but the more we know, the more we can do about it. So stay tuned to test your knowledge. Before we get started, I'd like to give a brief land acknowledgement. So as stewards of the earth, we'd like to take a moment now to acknowledge that the land on which we gathered belonged to the indigenous peoples for centuries prior to European settlement. Currently, I am inhabiting the ancestral land of the Lenape, the Susquehannock, the Conestoga, the Haudenosaunee, the Shawnee, the Erie, and later the Indian children of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. I encourage everyone watching this program this evening to take a moment after our presentation to acknowledge the tribes in our area, of the Carlisle area, the Susquehanna Valley as well, or perhaps wherever you may be watching from as well. And without further ado, I will give it over to Professor Pfister.
Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the Climate Jeopardy Trivia Game. My name is Hans Pfister, and I'm a physics professor at Dickinson College, and I will be your game show host this afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Sarah for running the Zoom show here in the background today. I also would like to thank both Sarah and Claire for sending out all the links to you guys out there, because, I mean, let's face it, without those links, you guys wouldn't be here right now. So yesterday was Earth Day. And as I just found out about 10 minutes ago, I thought it was the 50th anniversary. It's the 51st anniversary of Earth Day. And why be happy with celebrating one day? We decided to celebrate a whole week. So this is Friday of Earth Week. So for today's Climate Jeopardy Trivia Quiz Show, I have selected some trivia, some puzzling facts, just facts from a wide range of disciplines, such as geology, geography, chemistry, physics, hydrology, petrology, agronomy, oceanography, marine biology, stoichiometry, renewable energy, and so forth. Some good questions, and some questions with scary answers, and some of the questions you'll be able to answer right out, and some other questions, yeah, you just have to guess. And other questions, you have no clue, but that's all right. There were 2-3 questions I had no clue either. I would have been way off with my answer. So let's quickly talk about the rules of today's game. So you are playing either alone or in a small team. And the way this works is the following. I will read the question and give you multiple choices as answers. Then you have 15 seconds, and Sarah will time that, to do your best to just pick the answer you think, yeah, that's the most likely answer. Then write the letter from the multiple choice question on a piece of paper. Then I will give you the answer and possibly explain the answer when it was perplexing or just a puzzling question. If you had the correct answer, you'll write a 1 to the right of it. And if you didn't have the correct answer, you'll write a 0. Then all you have to do at the end is add all the ones, and you have your final score. All right, and this is all on your honor here. Okay, so if you happen to have the correct answer, I'm very happy for you. And if you didn't have the correct answer, well, then I'm happy for you too, because that means you need to reconfigure your brain. And you know what we call that, right? We call that learning. So let's have some learning happen this afternoon, and let's also have some fun. So I'm going to switch now to the slide presentation here. Get that to full screen. Here we are, yesterday's date, 22nd. Everyone ready to go? Sarah, you're ready to go? Okay, here we go. The first question. The United States population accounts for about 4.4% of the global population. What percent of the world's resources does the US consume? 3%, 5%, 10%, 24%, 32%, or 68.3%? 15 seconds. All right, 50. A wonderful jingle you have found, Sarah. Okay, so the answer is, well, it depends on what we're looking for. We are using 33% of the world's paper, 25% of the world's oil, 23% of coal, 27% of the aluminum, and 19% of the copper. So what is that? 20, 33, 25, 23, 27. Yeah, let's call it about 24. So if you picked answer D, give yourself a 1 on the right. Otherwise, it's a 0. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. This is petrology. These are oil barrels. And I was always wondering, how many oil barrels are we filling in one day? How much crude oil are we pulling out of the US soil, onshore, offshore, but US oil, crude oil production in one day? Ein Tag, sola, un día, right? In one day. Is it 10,000 barrels per day, 100,000, 1,200,000 barrels per day, 10 million barrels per day, or 10 billion barrels per day? 10 seconds. So let me tell you, I would have gotten this answer wrong. I would never have guessed this. We are pulling out of the ground 11.08 million barrels per day as of January 2021. And that is a quite surprising answer. 10 million is an awful amount of barrels. So if you stack 10 high, it would be 1 million on the ground. If you line up 1,000 from let's say the Carlisle Square, those 1,000 barrels would probably reach up to Walmart. And then you go over to the maybe the Pizza Grill, and then all the way up again to 81. So that's a big area of oil barrels, and stack that 10 layers high. That's 10 million barrels a day. So an amazing amount. Guess what we do with that? Oh, we use it. Okay, here is question number 3. Oh, wait, before, I want to give you some facts here from the US Energy Information Administration, EIA, the place to go to. You can see here we had increasing oil production all the way until about the 70s. Then we dropped steadily until about 2010. And now we have a very large ramp up, and we're now over 10 million a day. Okay, question number 4. The present population, let's look at Earth population. The present population growth is such that it corresponds to adding a city every day. So there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that our global population is still increasing every day. The good news is that the rate of increase is steadily declining. But as of this year, we're still growing. So let's do the following thought experiment. Let's count all the newborn babies, right, in the last 24 hours. We subtract from it all the people that got run over by a car, that died of natural causes, that died of COVID. Let's subtract those, and we have a net growth of people right there. And we herd them all together and let them all move into a new city. Question is, how big would that city be? Would that be city in one day, right? Every day. Would that city be the size of Carlisle, Harrisburg, Richmond, Virginia, Los Angeles, or New York? 10, 15 seconds. Lock in your answer, and here we are. The answer is, every day, the amount of people we're adding to planet Earth, new Earthlings every day, is, well, let's take a look at this quickly. The growth per year in 2020 is down to 1.05% from 108 last year, 110 the year before, and 112 the year before that. So that is great news. But still, presently, we have 7.87 billion Earthlings, and we're adding 81 million per year. You divide that by 365, and we get 223,000 roughly every day of additional Earthlings. So that would be, yeah, about the size of Richmond. So if you picked the letter C, you scored a point. All right, let's move on. Next question. Ah, God, it's getting hotter and hotter every year. So question is, which of the following 3 years have been record-setting years in terms of average global temperature? Was it 2014, 2015, 2016, or all of the above? 15 seconds. Okay, let's take a look at the answer. The answer is all of the above. So if you had letter D, give yourself a point. If we look at the temperature recordings for the last 50 years, then you can see they're steadily increased, but let's look at those. This is 2010, 16, 15, 14, and I said 14 was a record, 15 more, 16 more, and look at this, 2020, we're tying just with 2016. Okay, all right. Back to the population of the United States, 4.4%, right? That's us. About what percentage of greenhouse gases do we emit? So what percentage of the total greenhouse gases emitted worldwide is emitted by the United States? Is it 4.4%? Right? No, 4 points. See those numbers? We are 4.4%. So I have to throw in a number, 4.4%, our rightful share. 5%, 10%, 15, 30, or 50%? It's not an easy question, but you have 15 seconds. All right. Sarah, you make lovely sounds. The answer is, in 2020, we emitted 5,410 teragrams. That's like a terabytes. This is teragrams of CO2. And that is 15% of the world's emission. And we are no longer number one, but it is China now who passed us about 3-4 years ago and is now leading emissions at 25%. If you figure it out per capita, we still win. Okay, so these are the numbers and you can look them up. China, 28, United States, about 15%. Okay, so let's see if you had the letter D, give yourself a point. Okay, now on to the next question. And I must say, I must preface this again. I had no clue what the answer would have been to this question. No clue. I have never grown any grain, not one grain of grain ever in my life. So I had no idea. Question is, how much water does it take to grow 1 ton of grain? 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds of grain. Is it half a ton of water, 1 ton of water, 10 tons of water, 27 tons of water, 42 tons of water, or 1,000 tons of water? 15 seconds. Your turn. This is a hard one. How many tons of water to grow 1 ton of grain? Here is the answer. We have to convert numbers. 1 kilogram of wheat requires between 500 and 4,000 liters of water. Well, 1 kilogram, how many kilograms are in a ton? That's 1,000, okay? So for 1,000 kilograms of wheat, we would require between 500,000 kilogram of water and 4,000 kilograms of 4 million kilograms of water. And that, if we turn that into tons, that's between 500 tons and 4,000 tons. And it depends on where on the planet you're growing that grain. Okay, so between 500 and 4,000, and the answer is yes, an unbelievable, all around middle of the average here, 1,000 tons. So if you picked F, you score a point. All right, let's move on. Sorry, I wouldn't have known this answer for sure. I would have been way off. So if you're way off, no problem. Let's go on a trip to California. The Owens Lake in California used to be 200 square miles, but it is now, answer A, covering about 240 square miles due to the increased melting of the glaciers in the Sierra Nevada. Or answer B, it is one of those few lakes not affected by global warming at all. Or answer C, it is now covering only 160 square miles. That means 20% less than it used to. Or answer D, it is now covering only 100 square miles. That means it's half as large as it used to be. Or answer D, it has disappeared entirely. And you have 15 seconds. All right, let's see what you have locked in as your answer. Oops, there is no answer, so I have to tell you. The answer is, it has disappeared entirely. And if you look very closely on your screen, I mean, I couldn't show you a picture of Owens Lake because that would give away the answer immediately. So if you look closely on the picture, it says Lake Tahoe, California, right? Owens Lake is gone, has disappeared entirely. Let's move on. Oh, this is an easy question. And it talks about the level of CO2 in the atmosphere. There was a show this morning on NPR about the level of CO2 in the atmosphere. If you listen to that, you know the answer. Let me give you a little overview of what happened in the last 750,000 years. So let me take you back in history, 740,000 years. That's about 750,000. During these years, 750,000 years, the level of CO2 in the atmosphere varied up and down between somewhere 200 parts per million and about 270 parts per million. You know, during ice ages, 200 parts per million, and during the interim warm periods, 270. Okay, so that gives you a good range. Now we're in 2021. What is the CO2 level in the atmosphere right now? I'll give you choices. 123 parts per million, 223 parts per million, 275 parts per million, 350 parts per million, and 416 parts per million. And you have 15 seconds. Okay, that little ding was just an email, but the 15 seconds are up, and the answer is, unfortunately, 416 parts per million. But fortunately, if you picked letter E, you score a point. All right, let's move on. I have a question here to reduce our carbon footprint, our CO2 emission into the atmosphere. Very simple question. Does it save money or does it cost more money to reduce CO2 emissions? So the answers are A, it saves money, B, it costs more money, and C, it's about the same. And you have 15 seconds. All right, this is my favorite answer. If you picked A, you are correct. If you picked B, you are correct. If you picked C, you are correct. So you score a point if you pick A or B or C. In any case, you win. I love it when all my students win. Okay, so here we go. Why is that? How can it be that all three answers are correct? If you look on this slide here, this is from National Geographic a couple of years ago. From left to right, this is the cost. So you can do these things here, like screw in a light bulb. It saves lots and lots of money, probably a little over $100 per light bulb over the lifetime of the light bulb. So this is here on this end, saving lots of money. We power our house here with wind energy this is our 11th year now. We're saving lots and lots of money. We can talk about this later. Bicycling, saving money. Then these kind of break even. It's about the same if you do these activities here. And then there are some that will actually cost a little more money. So personally, I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't just jump on all of these activities and do them, because all of these will save money. And that's part of another show. let's move on. I have a particular one. Bummer. And I might have just given away the answer. Is electricity, no, I have not given away the answer. Electricity generated by a wind farm, right? Is that more or less expensive than electricity generated from oil or coal? So A, wind energy is more expensive. B, wind energy costs about the same. C, wind energy is less expensive. And I'll give you 15 seconds again. Okay, it sounds like 15 seconds are over. You know, I'm not really keeping track of the 15 seconds, Sarah. Okay, so I'm not sure if I've given away the answer because I said we have wind energy for the last 11 years now. Well, the story is, since I'm the professor teaching renewable energy, I'm supposed to go ahead and do what I preach. And so 11 years ago, we subscribed to wind energy, and actually was a little more expensive than regular fossil fuel electricity. The first 2-3 years, it was a little more, $8-9 more than the Med-Ed or PP&L electricity. But we did it anyway. So by year 3-4, somewhere around there, we broke even, and it was about the same. But now it is far less expensive. So, for example, you can look on your electric bill how much you're paying for electricity right now. There's somewhere a line called price to compare. I'll tell you what I paid the last 3 months. That was 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour, right? When Med-Ed was 6.6. So that contract ended, and I'm right now subscribing to a new one. Unfortunately, I don't get 3.57 cents anymore, but 4.16. So look at your price to compare. My wind energy cost me 4.16 cents per kilowatt hour. And that is significantly less expensive. So I would say, since this is 2020, 2021, you score if you picked answer C, wind energy is less expensive. Okay, let's move on. Oh boy, this one, I'm not a farmer. I would have had no idea, but there's a research study conducted in the US. If the average temperature increases by 1 degree Celsius, the yield of a corn or soybean crop roughly stays the same. That's answer A. Drops by 2%, that would be answer B. Increases by 2%. Increases by 7%, drops by 17%, or increases by 17%. And you have 15 seconds. And I would have had no idea. All right, 15 seconds are over. Am I too soon? So, okay.
Oh, you're fine.
Clearly, there is more sun, right? So we would go for increase, but at the same time, there's also less water, and it depends on where you do the study. But they found that it decreased by 17%. So unfortunately, well, fortunately, if you picked answer increases, drops by 17%, answer E, you score a point. Okay, so I would have had no idea because, you know, more sun is more sun, but less rain is less rain. So I'm not a farmer, but I'm a physicist and I know the answer to this question perfectly. So environmental scientists have created numerous models relating to the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, to an average rise in the ocean levels, right? So let's do what we call a Gedanken experiment, a thought experiment. Let's assume for just a moment that all icebergs around the planet melt between today and tomorrow. It's a thought experiment, right? It's not really happening, but let's assume all iceberg on the planet all melt all away. Question is, by how much would the world's oceans rise? By 1 centimeter? By half a meter? By 1 meter? 2.4 meters? 5 meters? Or not at all? That's a bit of a tricky question, but much easier than the water for the grains. Okay, so iceberg question, 15 seconds. All right, Sarah, you play a cool electric guitar. I love that. Yeah. Okay, the answer is not at all. Sorry, this was a trick question. Okay, but how is that? Why does it not rise, right? So here is the experiment for you for this weekend. All my science fair students here listening in today, watching in, do the following experiment. Take a glass and put some ice cubes in, and then fill it with water so that the water is right at the edge of the glass, not overflowing. And you notice that the ice cubes will stick out, right? Because they float. So the icebergs stick out, but the water, and you can make sure that the rim is not wet and the water is right there, iceberg sticking out. And then you leave that glass sitting outside in the sun or on the kitchen table and watch it. And the ice cubes will melt. Will the glass overflow or not? It will stay the same. Question is why? Well, let's go and revisit Archimedes' principle. All right, onward to the next question. So the ice occupies more volume, and when it melts, it goes back into the volume, and that top sticking out of the water goes back in that volume, and the water level stays the same. So we don't have to worry about melting icebergs, but what we do have to worry is about all that ice that's on top of land. In Greenland, the ice sits on top of the land. When that slides down and then drops into the ocean, then we have ocean rise. If a glacier is up on a mountain, it is not an iceberg in the water, but it slides down the mountain, and it will lead to water, a rise of the water level. Okay, all right, let's move on. This is, we'll skip this one. You see that water sprinkler? We'll see that in a moment, so we'll come back to that. It's the demand for water. I'm gonna take a deep breath on this one. So we are putting stresses on forests, rangelands, fisheries, and they cannot withstand all those stresses. And we're also destroying many of the plant and animal species with which we share this planet. So we also discover some new species, and we call that the rate of creation, and the rate of disappearing would be, how much do these species disappear? Question is well, that's not a question. Unfortunately, I have to say that the rate at which animal species disappear is larger than the rate at which we discover new species, right? How much larger? That's the question. Is it twice as large? Answer A. 3 times as large? 4 times as large? Answer C. Do the species disappear at a rate that is 10 times larger, or 100 times larger, or 1,000 times larger? And that's just an approximate answer what we're looking for here. Okay, you have 10 seconds. Oh, 15 seconds, of course. Okay, this is a really worrisome answer here. The answer is F. And I'm very sad about that. And I'm glad that you are all here tuning in today, because you are the leaders, the future leaders of mankind, and we need you. This is a little depressing, so I'm going to move on from this one. Here is a 2003 landmark study by a Canadian-German science team. I tried to find the later one, like the 2010s or 2015, somewhere around there. I could not, but so we just got to remember right now, this is about, what, 18 years old. So 18 years ago, they concluded that what percentage of the large fish in the oceans have disappeared over the previous 50 years. And the picture here, you see that's a school of bluefin tuna, right? So what percentage of the large fish is fished out of the oceans? And that's as of 2003. Is it 4%, 7%, 10%, 30%, 56%, or 90%? And you have 15 seconds to decide that. Okay. I think we should also skip this one. It is, unfortunately, 90%. I remember when I was in school, they told us in school, I remember that, the oceans are so large. If we run out of food on land, we'll just go to the oceans and we'll never run out of food. Well, were they wrong? Let's go to China. Okay, in Western China, in the Xinhai province, I was down here in around Kunming in this area, but a little further north, right there at the headwaters of the Yellow River, that's the Xinhai province, they used to have 4,077 lakes. And the question is, how many of those lakes have disappeared over the course of the past 20 years? Is it 3, 50, 187, 230, 300, or 2,000? And you get 15 seconds. This is also kind of a frightening answer. The answer is F. And this is not a very good answer, but the Chinese are really struggling to do something about it, and they're having tremendous measures on curbing their carbon emissions. When I was in China, I was amazed to see how many installations of evacuated tube solar collectors had, etc. So they realized that this is, answer F is not a good answer here. Okay, it's time that we move on to something a little more pleasant. Sorry, I apologize for these last 3 slides. But you heard of the Ogallala Aquifer. By the way, it is the largest freshwater aquifer on the planet. And if you look here in this map here, this is about here, right? In Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, central US, an enormous large freshwater aquifer. Well, at the moment, and it's called a fossil aquifer because it recharges at a very slow rate of about, it depends exactly where you are, but roughly about 0.2 inches per year. In other words, to get 1 inch recharged, we need to wait 5 years roughly. Presently, we are using this water for irrigation purposes. And if you fly over this area, you can see these round circles. If you ever wondered what those circles are, if you look closely, here is this watering machine, and it just runs around in a circle, and then you get some crops right there. You can, that first one, you can see that sprinkling machine here. There's a pump here in the middle, and the water comes from the aquifer. So, according to the USDA report, groundwater tables in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas have dropped by about how much? 1 foot, 5 feet, 10 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, or 500 feet. Right, Sarah, I like this contemplative music. You gave us time to calculate this, right? So if you calculate it very quickly, the answer is 50 feet. Okay, so answer D, you score a point. And if you didn't score that, I'm not sure if I would have gotten that right either. Okay, but that's scary, 50 feet. Remember, I said a moment ago that to get 1 inch back would be 5 years. 12 inches a foot would be 5 times 12, 60 years. And we're talking 50. So that's, whoa, way, way, way too long. We haven't lived that long yet. So it also depends exactly when you look for these numbers, if you're looking in Texas or Oklahoma. Okay, so 70 feet, well, 50. By the way, if you scored 100, give yourself a point too. If you picked E, give yourself a point. D and E, we take both for 1 point. Okay. Mercury is a potent neurotoxin. A typical coal-fired power plant in the US releases about 100,000 pounds of mercury into the air. So in 2004, of the 50 states in the United States, how many states issued a fish advisory warning against eating fish from local lakes and streams because of their mercury content? You see these mercury droplets. I remember my dad playing with mercury in his hand. He didn't know what kind of neurotoxin he's playing with. Okay, how many states? Is it 3, 5, 10, 23, 31, and 48? And you have 15 seconds. Okay, the answer is, again, the answer I don't like, 48. And you might ask, hey, you picked again such an old study, 2004. Hey, let me update you to 2017, but the update is not good. It's now all 50 states and some US territories and tribes have consumption advisories to protect people from potential health risk of eating contaminated fish caught in local waters. We should have stayed with the 2004 study. Okay. Oh, look at that Volkswagen Beetle. Okay, now that's my favorite Beetle. My first car was a Beetle, but I had a slightly smaller muffler. This is one from California, the Beetle with the world's biggest muffler or tailpipe. Tailpipe, that's it. It's not the muffler, it's what's under the car. This is the tailpipe. So the question is, how much stuff comes out of that tailpipe? Okay, so here is the experiment. You empty your gas tank entirely. And then we fill in 1 gallon of gasoline, just 1 gallon. That gallon weighs 8.5 pounds. So you put that in, and now you go and drive. And you drive and drive and drive until the tank is empty, until you used up the 8.5 pounds of gasoline. So question is, while you did this, used up 1 gallon of gasoline, 8.5 pounds, how many pounds of CO2 came out of that tailpipe? Was it 0.25 pounds, 1.3 pounds, 1.7 pounds? I had to throw in this, as a physicist, 8.5 pounds in, 8.5 points out. So answer D, 8.5 pounds. Answer E, 19.5 pounds. And answer F, 320 pounds. And remember, CO2 is a gas, right? Okay, 15 seconds to decide. Nice jingle to contemplate. I must say this is a very surprising answer, especially in view of that 8.5 pounds in, 8.5 pounds out. I thought that would have been a likely answer, but here is where chemistry comes in. The answer is E, 19.5 pounds. Wait a minute, how can that be? How can more come out than we put into the tank? We put 8.5 pounds in the tank, 19.5 points coming out in terms of CO2. How come? Well, something's wrong with that calculation. No, it's actually true. There's actually something else going into the car that we haven't taken into account. That something else is oxygen. You have an air intake, an air filter, right? And then the air goes into the engine and combines with the gasoline. We have the explosion, a chemical reaction, and out comes H2O and CO2 and some other stuff. But 99% is the H2O and CO2. So if we look a little bit into chemistry here and do stoichiometry, this is for you to count. I'll just tell you how to count it. Here is your gasoline molecule. When you go to the gas station, what you put in your tank is mostly octane. Octo is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a hydrocarbon. So you have 8 carbons and then a hydrogen left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and one front and back. That is 8. Left, right is 16. Front and back 2 more. So 18. This is your gasoline atom, a hydrocarbon. Now comes from the air intake, oxygen. And then when you combine that, you see these 8 C8s combined with O2s make 8 CO2s, right? And the hydrogens, these two together in an oxygen makes a high H2O. These two and an oxygen, another H2O, these two, these two, these two, these two, these two, and these two here in the front and back make a total of 9 H2Os. Now you write down the weight, the atomic number here, add the numbers, and you can see what we put in the tank was 96 in C's, right? 12 times 8. And hydrogen weighs 1 times 18 is 18, total of 114. That's what we put in the tank. What comes out? Let's look here. 8 CO2 molecules, 8 CO2s. C is 12. O is 16. 16 and 16 is 32 plus 12 is 44. 8 times 44 is 352, which is more than we put in the tank. And that's why in the previous question, 19.5 is the answer. So that was our chemistry for today. And if I was a little too fast on this answer, you find this in every chemistry book or online, okay? And if not, just remember C is 12, H is 1, O is 16. That's all you need to know. The rest all adds up from there. C 12, O 16, H 1. Just adding the numbers. Okay. Oh, and just an hour ago, I added one more slide to my presentation. Ride your bike instead of drive your car. Okay, so question is, we now know when you drive your car, we have 19 point some pounds of CO2 come out. So question is, when you ride your bike, approximately how much CO2 is not being emitted for every mile you ride your bike instead of your car on your way to work or to the grocery store? How much is not being emitted? Do we save 1 ounce, 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, or a quarter pound, 1 pound, or 10 pounds of CO2 that we do not emit into the atmosphere? Okay, time-wise, we're doing really well. We're almost done. 15 seconds for the ride your bike to work slide. Okay, if you picked answer E, you score a point. It is somewhere, depends on which car you drive. Okay, so I picked the average US car, and if we go back 2 slides again here, you can see for 1 gallon, it is 19.5 pounds. The average miles per gallon, that's including all pickup trucks, SUVs, and minivans, is about roughly 20 miles per gallon using 19.5 pounds. If we say 19 and 20, 19.5 is about 20. It is about 1 pound per driven mile, right? 20 miles per gallon, 19.5 pounds per that 1 gallon, 20, about 19.5, so about 1 pound. So this is significant. If you ride your bike 3-4 miles, that's 3 or 4 pounds of CO2 that are not being emitted. And that, gets us to my favorite car, the Loremo. Loremo stands for low resistance motion. This is a startup company in Germany, in the Bavarian area near Munich, where they build also the BMWs. But this is a special car. I love it. Boy, its top speed is about 100 miles per hour. Where in the US can you drive 100 miles per hour? Not many places. It seats 4 passengers, 2 of them facing forward, 2 of them facing backwards, because they saved 2 seats. They have no rear seat. They just use the same backrest for 4 forward-facing and rearward-facing passengers. You see, there's also no door handle. You lift up the front and you get out like a bathtub. The whole thing is as safe as a race car, as a carbon fiber body. And it is very, very light. And this leads me to the question. This Loremo has an amazing gas mileage. We get to the really good slides here. And you remember how much we get excited if we find a car. Oh, wow, this car has 32 miles to the gallon. We get so excited. No, my bidding starts at 50 miles per gallon. Or is it 75 miles per gallon? Or will the Loremo get 87 miles to the gallon? Or 112? Or 150 miles per gallon? You see, bidding goes between 50 and 150 miles per gallon. And you got 15 seconds to make up your mind. Okay, here we go. All right, and the winning number is 150 miles per gallon. If you picked letter E, you're a winner and you score a 1 on this question. Okay, this is, oh, no, not the second to last question. We have 2 more. Let's go better. The Aptera. I'd love to drive an Aptera. I would look really cool in an Aptera. I can see myself in there. All right. This Aptera beats the Loremo. And you see now my bidding starts at 100 miles per gallon. What's the gas mileage of the Aptera? Is it 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, or 552 miles per gallon? God, sleek looking vehicle. Wow. Okay, 15 seconds. All right. Did you lock in your answer? The answer is E, 300 miles per gallon. I know you were hoping for 552, but not quite. 300, but 300 is not bad, right? So that's an amazing, amazing vehicle. Okay, and that brings me to my last question. There I am again. And this is my first electric bicycle. This is a prototype. And you can see here, this blue thing is the battery. This grayish looking thing is the controller. And then you see lots and lots of cable. And clearly this is not cleaned up. But if you come to tomorrow's bike ride, you'll see it's a little bit cleaner by now. I rewired it a little bit. You see all the cable plastic on there. But this is not the question. The question is, I have a 5.1 mile bike ride to the college. And I'm wondering if you have an idea how much it cost for me to recharge this blue battery here for a 5.5 mile trip. How much does it cost to recharge it? And of course, I'm going to recharge it with wind energy, right? Does it, oh, wait, to put it in perspective, if you drive a car, the government pays you about 50 cents per driven mile. So 5 miles would be $2.50, right? So something to compare to, $2.50. Okay, we are below $2.50 here with all these entries. Is it costing me $1, $1.20, 50 cents, 25 cents, 10 cents, or 2 cents to recharge the battery for a 5 mile trip? 15 seconds, our last 15 seconds. All right, and the answer is, the question is, why is B below A? Shouldn't say 120 and then $1? Yes, but the answer is 2 cents. Okay, 2 cents to recharge the battery. And this is my 2 cents to this whole quiz show. And the 2 cents in my case come from wind energy, right? But even if you have fossil fuel energy, I think 2 cents is okay to recharge your bicycle. In addition, it is tremendous fun to ride your e-bike. And if it's a day where your ankle hurts, you know, e-bike's fine. I really appreciate it. I usually pedal. I love to pedal, you know. But if I go on the street and there are these knolls with lots of traffic, that's a bit of an unsafe situation. So going up those hills, I usually would be in first gear and going up that hill. And I'm in that danger zone for a little too long, and some vehicles pass me. So now what I do is I just turn on that throttle and go full blast up that hill. And you should see me keeping up with some cars. That's just, they're amazed. How does that guy do that? You know, I'll tell you, with the throttle. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's quiz. And now you can take your answer sheet, adding up all your ones, and you find your total score. And we have a couple prizes for our winner. So we give away some LED light bulbs. Let me point out that each light bulb will save you. This is on the saving side of that diagram. Each light bulb will save you about $100 to $150 in electricity. So for the first prize, 10 light bulbs, $150 saving, 10 times 150 is $1,500 save if you have the winning score. Ah, Sarah, did you know we're giving away $1,500?
I hadn't calculated it, but no, that's great.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here, right? To calculate that number. But the second prize is what, 5? That's $750 saved, right? And then 3 light bulbs, that would be 150, 300, 450. $450 saved. Okay, so send your score to Engage Carlisle Climate Action Commission. So Engage Carlisle, CAC, at gmail.com. And then we'll find a way to get those light bulbs to you. Okay.
Yes, we will.
All right. And let me come back to this slide again. Tomorrow at 10:30, right? We meet at the Le Torch behind the Lamberton School. What street is that?
We'll be meeting at South Bedford, at the
South
very
Bedford.
end of South Bedford.
At the
Yeah, so
northern
right
end,
after.
right at the northern end of South Bedford. It's at the that would be the northeast corner of the Lamberton School, right? For a bike ride, community bike ride along the Litour Trail. I arranged for a most lovely bicycling temperature of 67 degrees tomorrow. Thank you, you're welcome. And I will see you tomorrow at 10:30.
Yeah. See everyone soon.
Okay, see you tomorrow.